Well, I've decided to share my story. Probably gonna be a bit awkward, but I'm really hoping this can help someone. Anxiety. My story. It's when you see someone or something that makes you have bees in your stomach, because at first they flutter, but then you constantly can't stop thinking about what hurts, so they sting. It makes your stomach flip and turn. You can't control the shaking, or if you burst out crying, it all comes at once. It's when life gets too much and you overwhelm yourself on schoolwork or constantly just think about what hurts. It makes you annoyed at everything and you just shut yourself out from everyone. Grades start going downhill, you start paying attention less to friends, and the only escape you have is when you sleep or daydream. It's when you're sitting in the middle of class or work or anywhere and you randomly start panicking because you're thinking too much over the slightest thing, and it sets you off. You can't control your thoughts, you can't control yourself physically, and it hurts. People don't understand that sometimes medicines aren't always the answer, so then they have to resort to things like cutting or smoking. You just have to sit there and let that overwhelming feeling take over, because in your mind nothing can help. Anxiety makes people lose hope, and when people lose hope, it never ends well. I lost myself a long time ago in the pitch black walls of anxiety. I learned to call it home. I made it my best friend because I had pushed all my other friends away. It left me alone in a world full of people. It blinded me from seeing that anyone cared because it took every lost confidence I had, and it destroyed it all. It consumed me like it was a quicksand pit, hungry to take me into a place of nothing, as I watched as everyone stood around, watching me fall into its depths and then turn around and forget me. I lost so much because of it. I turned to drugs, pills, cutting, and just anything that could make me feel something, because all I wanted to do was focus on everything but my problem. Life went way downhill for me, and I became a liar and a thief with no self-respect. It got me places I could have never imagined myself as being in as a child. I always thought I would be a straight-A student, was good, and never got into trouble, but because of my problems I wasn't facing, I turned into the exact opposite. When I stopped facing my problems and decided to run to them, I began to feel urges I couldn't suppress. I learned that I could harm myself. I began to cut when I was in the 7th grade. I still have those scars. Over the year, my mom had learned what I was doing and began to punish me for it by grounding me and taking things I thought were valuable away from me, because she thought that would make me stop. What she didn't understand is how much I was already going through, which isn't her fault because I tended to keep everything to myself. She didn't know I was getting sexually harassed at school or that I was made fun of for my sloppy dressing. She didn't know how often I had dark thoughts, or that I felt like I was drowning in a whirlwind of my own emotions all the time. I began to loathe waking up every day, and most days I didn't even get out of bed. I just stayed in my room, letting my thoughts consume me. One day I decided I had enough. I decided that I didn't want to live. I was at school and started writing letters to my family, telling them that they didn't need to blame themselves. I put it in my notebook and I started thinking about how I was going to kill myself. Should I hang myself? Would my brother's gun work? Do the pills do the job quicker? These were all questions I contemplated on and asked myself over and over again until the bell rang. I packed my stuff and went on with my day. What I didn't know was that the next hour I was going to be called down to the counselor's office, and my whole life would turn upside down more than I could have thought. I remember that exact moment I was called down. I was in my reading class and we were reading an Edgar Allan Poe poem. It was 3 students away from being my turn to read, and to be honest with you, I was dreading it because I hate reading in front of everyone. I always stuttered and messed up the words, and kids would get frustrated with me because I wouldn't hurry up and just finish it. The phone rang and my teacher made eye contact with me and hung up the phone. She didn't want to disturb the other students or make a big deal out of it, I guess, so she walked over to me and whispered that I needed to go to the counselor's office. I figured it was some type of drama I was getting dragged into with kids at school. Because, well, it's middle school, and who doesn't have drama? When I got down there, the counselor tells me to sit down in the chair at her small table she has in her office. She starts out first with, so someone came to us this morning about some sexual harassment and bullying that went on at lunch. I shift kind of uncomfortably because I don't like talking about it. I said yeah. She asked me who they were and what all went down. Told her how they sat at lunch and asked me how each one of my boobs weighed, and then went around the table guessing. I told her about how one of them told me I was ugly, but my body was hot. He was going to put a paper bag over my face while he got his way with me. I told her about all the times in the hallway and after lunch when they would grab my butt or grope my boobs like it was all fun and games. Thought if I could get this over with, we wouldn't have to talk about it, and I can carry on with my day. Then she told me she had something else she wanted to discuss too. She went to her desk and grabbed my notebook. I was terrified. I knew exactly what she had read and what was fixing to happen. She asked me what was going on, what I meant by the stuff I said in there. I started crying and she grabbed the tissues from her desk. She told me it was okay, that I could tell her what was going on. I had never heard that from anyone. It made me break down, and I told her what was going on. I told her how I was going to go home and end my life, how I didn't see the point in going on anymore. She told me that she was going to have to call my mom, and fear struck me like it never has before. Tell my mom? She would be furious at me. Hearing that made me start to panic, and just like always, my anxiety took over. It was 30 minutes later when my mom arrived and the counselor recommended us to go to Four Rivers. There I was evaluated and sent to a place called Cumberland Hall. I was too scared to even speak my first couple of days, but then my roommate and I started talking, and she made it a lot better. 3 weeks later, I left that place. It was another week before spring break, and my parents didn't want me to go to school, so I stayed home, and I missed about a month's worth of school. I was on lockdown at my house, wasn't even allowed to shave my legs, and that was awful. Eventually things went back to normal, and I got all my freedoms back, and I went back to school. Getting caught up was really hard and stressful, but I learned at Cumberland Hall was that you don't fail until you stop trying. School was okay. Everyone kind of started seeing me as a crazy girl though, because somehow words slipped out where I was. All I had were 2 friends left, and that was perfectly okay with me. So for the rest of the school year, I was quiet and no one really bothered me. The summer ended up being a really bad summer when mine and Camden's old friend's mom had made a post on Facebook about how it was hard to pay for Paige's medical bills, and they needed help, all the help they could get. Camden ended up texting her, and it turns out she was in hospice care. She had cancer, and there was nothing anyone could do about it. We visited her a lot, and we watched Pitch Perfect 2. That was one of the best memories I've ever had. She passed away at the end of the summer, and it broke my heart to see such a wonderful, sweet girl like that die, because she deserves so much better than what she got. I didn't let it get me down, though. I knew there was nothing I could do about it, but that's something I really wish I could have helped. It was about time for 8th grade, and I didn't know how to feel about it. I heard it was really hard, and that made me nervous. I ended up liking most of my classes, though, and it was great. Then it started again. I was getting weird looks from people, and that day a lot of people stared at me in the hallway. It was Friday, and I decided that I would go to my friend's house. When we got to her house, we decided to watch a movie, so we were laying in bed, and the movie kind of got uninteresting. So I decided to do what any other teenage girl would do and get on Instagram. Took one look at my notifications and my heart stopped. There was a fake account about me with pictures of me and some nudes, and they weren't even mine. It was called Allie Moore the Whore. A lot of pictures had captions underneath them that were mostly about how I was a skank and that was out there for anyone who wanted me. There was one particular one that got me though, and that's when I decided to get rid of Instagram. It said that I should kill myself and that they would celebrate the day I died. I didn't know exactly what I had done to deserve this. I mean, in school I was in trouble a lot, but I was never into drama with the girls, and I kept to myself most of the time. I went home crying, and my parents decided it was best I didn't have a phone for a while. I didn't care about school anymore, and I didn't want to go, so I made up every excuse not to go, and eventually my mom saw what I was doing and forced me to go. I will say that after that, there was a lot of people who were mad and told me I was beautiful and didn't need to listen to them. I decided around Christmas that I needed a fresh start, so I moved to Valley County Middle School. I thought I would enjoy it there and I could be a completely different person and not have so many enemies. I got there and it turned out to be the exact opposite. The boy had spread rumors about me and how I did things with him, and the whole school was calling me a hoe in a matter of a month. I ended up meeting someone there and we dated till about the end of summer 2016. The day he broke up with me was the day I thought my life was no longer worth living. I didn't do it because of him. There was a lot with my family going on, things I couldn't tell anyone, and it all hit me at once. That I was never going to be happy again and that my life would just continue to get worse. So I went into our medicine cabinet and I grabbed a few different bottles of pills and I spilled out some of the pills into my hand from each container. I went upstairs, sat on the side of my bed with a glass of water by my nightstand, and I didn't think twice about doing it until I had already took them. And I'm getting so scared, I called my best friend and told her I didn't know if I was going to be okay or not. I also told her if she told my parents, I would never forgive her. I wouldn't talk to her ever again. So she decided to text the boy that lived down the road from me, one that we both thought was my friend, to come and check up on me. I was in the upstairs bathroom when he came inside and started yelling my name. I didn't answer because I was too busy trying to throw up. He yelled my name again, and after hearing him running through the downstairs, he came upstairs and found me on my shoulder of the toilet. I hadn't thrown up yet, but I was so exhausted, and I felt like my body couldn't handle anymore. I felt an arm wrap around under my armpit, and then him trying his hardest to lift me up off the ground. He told me that I needed to rest and brought me down to the hallway to my room. He laid me in my bed, and I immediately knew something was off when I looked at him. And he was just staring at me. I was so tired, though, I thought it was just because he didn't know what to do now, so I closed my eyes, and then I felt pressure on my body. It was him. He looked at me straight in my face and just kept trying to tell me that I needed to stay awake. I didn't say anything back. I was too tired and I couldn't speak. I just looked at him and tried rolling over and letting him know I didn't want to be touched. But he kept on. And then he pulled down his basketball shorts and underwear, and I was so weak from taking all that medicine, it was hard to try and fight him off. My arms were